Room 307, October 1995. An 8-year-old had 2 weeks left. Cameras would fail for 17 minutes, and a stranger in a black fedora would rewrite everything medicine couldn't. Emma Reyes hadn't opened her eyes in 48 hours. The machines tracking her heartbeat beeped steadily in the dim light of Children's Hospital Los Angeles. Her small body lay motionless under white sheets, an IV dripping slowly into her left arm. At 8 years old, she weighed less than she had at 6. Her mother, Maria, hadn't left that room in 11 days. The corner chair had become her entire world. She stared at Emma's face, memorizing every detail: the curve of her daughter's cheek, the dark lashes against pale skin, the way her lips parted slightly with each breath. Emma had been diagnosed with leukemia 6 months earlier. The chemotherapy bought them time, but not enough. By August, the cancer came back, faster, stronger, spreading through her bone marrow like wildfire. Radiation failed. Her body was too weak for a transplant. By mid-October, the doctors stopped talking about treatment plans. They started talking about comfort, about pain management, about saying goodbye. 2 to 3 weeks, they said. Maybe less. Maria stopped counting days. She counted breaths instead. That evening, just after 7, the hallway outside was quiet. Visiting hours had ended. Most families had gone home. The floor felt abandoned, the only sounds coming from distant monitors and the soft shuffle of nurses making their rounds. Then the door opened. A man stepped inside. Black fedora pulled low, dark sunglasses, a surgical mask covering his face, black jacket, black gloves. He moved with careful grace, like someone who knew exactly where he belonged. Maria looked up, startled. Her body tensed. Every instinct told her to call for help, to ask who he was, to demand answers. But something stopped her. Something in the way he stood there, hands folded, looking at Emma with a stillness that felt almost reverent. He didn't speak. Just observed, not staring, not intruding, just present. Maria found herself nodding. She didn't know why. The man pulled the visitor's chair close to Emma's bed. The legs scraped softly against the floor. He sat down slowly as if time itself had paused for this moment. He removed his gloves, folded them carefully, and placed them on his lap. Then he reached out and rested his hand over Emma's. His fingers were cool, steady. They didn't tremble. Maria watched, barely breathing. The man's head was bowed, fedora shadowing his face. He didn't check his watch, didn't fidget, didn't look around the room. He simply existed in that space with Emma, his thumb moving slowly across her knuckles in a gentle, rhythmic motion. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The man leaned forward. His lips moved beneath the mask. He was whispering something. Maria couldn't hear the words. They were too soft, too private. They weren't meant for her. They were meant for Emma alone. His voice was rhythmic, almost musical, like a lullaby sung in a language Maria had never heard. Emma's eyelids fluttered. Maria's breath caught in her throat. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She stood up, gripping the armrest, watching as her daughter, who hadn't moved in 2 days, began to stir. The man didn't stop whispering. His voice rose and fell in gentle waves. Emma's eyes opened, slowly, barely, but they opened. She turned her head toward the man. The movement was slight, almost imperceptible, but it was real. Her lips parted. No sound came out, but her gaze locked onto his. For the first time in 48 hours, there was awareness in her eyes, recognition, life. The man smiled. Maria could see it in the way his cheeks lifted beneath the mask, in the crinkling at the corners of his eyes. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small teddy bear. White fur, black button eyes, a red satin ribbon tied around its neck. The bear looked handmade, like someone had stitched it with care. He placed it gently in Emma's hands. Her fingers curled around it, weak, trembling, but actually moving. The man stood slowly. He looked at Maria and nodded once. a gesture that somehow said everything without words. Then he spoke quietly, his words carrying a certainty Maria hadn't heard in weeks, a promise that Emma had more strength than anyone realized. Before Maria could respond, before she could ask his name or beg him to stay, he turned and walked toward the door. His movements were unhurried, deliberate. Maria's voice broke as she called after him, asking who he was. The man paused at the threshold. His hand rested on the doorframe for just a moment. He didn't turn around. He answered simply that he just wanted to help. Then he was gone. Maria rushed into the hallway. It was empty, completely empty. No footsteps, no elevator sounds, nothing. She ran to the nurse's station, nearly stumbling, asking about the man in the black fedora. The nurse on duty, Sandra, looked confused. Nobody matching that description had come through. She'd been at the desk since 6:30. Maria insisted it was impossible. The man had just been there. Sandra checked security. The security logs showed nothing. No visitor had signed in after 6 p.m. No one matching that description had entered the building. When they pulled the hallway camera footage, they found something stranger. Between 7:03 and 7:20, cameras saw nothing. Yet room 307 wasn't empty. The footage was completely black. No image, no sound, just void for exactly 17 minutes. But Emma was awake, and that changed everything. Maria returned to room 307, her mind spinning. Emma was staring at the teddy bear clutched against her chest. Her eyes were clearer than they'd been in days. She whispered something so softly Maria almost missed it, a confession that fear had finally let her go. 20 minutes later, Dr. Patel arrived. A nurse had called him, alarmed by the sudden change in Emma's vitals. He checked her heart rate, paused, frowned, checked again. Her pulse had stabilized, from erratic and weak to steady and strong. Her breathing was easier, the rasp in her lungs quieter. Her oxygen levels had climbed from 89% to 94%. He ordered immediate blood work. The results came back the next morning. Emma's white blood cell count had shifted. Not dramatically, not miraculously, but enough to make the medical team reconsider everything. Her liver function had stabilized. Her kidneys showed improvement. The monitor steadied first. The doctors changed their language next. Dr. Patel used careful terms. Spontaneous improvement, he called it. He didn't say remission, not yet. But he stopped talking about days and started talking about weeks, maybe months. Emma refused to let go of the teddy bear. She held it during blood draws, during examinations, during the long nights when pain broke through the medication. She named it Hope. 3 days later, Emma sat up on her own. A week after that, she walked the hallways with a nurse. Within a month, she was discharged. The cancer hadn't disappeared, but it had stopped advancing. Her body had found some reserve no one expected, some strength that had been dormant. Nobody knew what happened in room 307, nobody except Maria and Emma. Maria searched for answers. She called hospitals across the city. She contacted agencies, described the man's build, his movements, his gentle voice. She hired an investigator who spent 3 months chasing dead ends. Nobody had answers. The mystery remained. A red ribbon held more proof than any signature could. Years passed. Emma's remission held. She finished elementary school, made friends, played soccer, learned piano. The teddy bear stayed on her desk through every milestone, a silent witness to the life she wasn't supposed to have. On June 25th, 2009, Emma was 22, preparing for her final year of college. She was studying when her mother called her downstairs. Maria's voice sounded urgent, broken. The television was on. The news anchor spoke in somber tones. Michael Jackson had died. Emma froze. The screen showed footage of his life, his music, his performances, his secret hospital visits that nobody knew about until after, children he'd helped in silence, families he'd supported anonymously. One clip, grainy and dated 1995, showed him entering Children's Hospital Los Angeles. Black fedora, dark sunglasses. Moving with that same careful, graceful deliberation Emma remembered from 14 years ago. Her hands went numb. The world tilted. Public grief finally named what that night only hinted. She ran upstairs, taking the steps 2 at a time, grabbed the teddy bear from her desk, turned it over, examining every seam, every stitch. There, hidden in the inner fold of the red ribbon where it had been sewn to the bear's neck, were 2 tiny embroidered letters in gold thread. Maria found her sitting on the floor, holding the bear, tears streaming down her face. Emma's hands trembled as she held the bear, realization flooding through her. The man who'd saved her 14 years ago had been the one the world was mourning today. The man who walked into room 307 that October evening had never asked for recognition, never left a name, never signed a guest book, never came back. He simply appeared when she needed hope most, whispered words meant only for her, and vanished like he'd never existed at all. But he'd left something stronger than medicine. He'd left belief. The belief that even in the darkest moments, even when time runs out, someone might walk through the door and change everything. Emma graduated college, then nursing school. She became a pediatric oncology nurse, the same specialty that almost claimed her life. She works now in the same hospital where she once lay dying, walking the same hallways, passing room 307 every single day. On her desk sits a small white teddy bear with a red ribbon and 2 gold initials hidden inside. When she sits with children who've lost hope, when parents sit in worn chairs with hollow eyes, she leans close and does what someone once did for her in the darkness. Her first night as a nurse, Emma sat beside a 6-year-old boy who'd stopped responding to treatment. His mother had gone to the cafeteria, exhausted, defeated. Emma pulled the chair close to his bed. She took his small hand in hers. She leaned forward and whispered the same words the stranger had whispered to her 14 years earlier, that he was stronger than anyone thought, that hope was still there, waiting. The boy's fingers twitched. His eyes opened slightly. He looked at her, really looked, and something shifted. Not a miracle, not a cure, but a spark. A reason to try one more day. Emma does this now. Every shift, every child who's given up. She whispers what he once whispered to her, hoping it plants the same seeds in them that it planted in her. And sometimes, when a child's eyes flutter open unexpectedly, she wonders if he knew, if he somehow knew that 17 minutes could rewrite an entire life, could plant seeds of hope that would grow for decades, could turn a dying girl into a woman who saves others. She never got to say thank you, but every child she helps is her way of saying it now. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe, then tell us, who taught you to keep going when hope ran out?